Hello, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and wherever you are in this wide, wonderful, beautiful world, you are very welcome to the Global Sales Leader podcast. I am your host, Jason Cooper, the sales relationship coach, high performance trainer, and a firm believer in the power of meaningful connections on how we can use the human centric side of what we do to make that further connection with extraordinary results. Each week, I bring you insightful conversations with brilliant minds across the globe, leaders in sales, psychology, tech, business strategy, and everything else in between. Why? Because I believe that everyone sells, whether it's an idea, a product, or a vision, or something different. Sales is a human connection, and a connection where transformation begins. This podcast is about it's not about tide tactics, so let me get this right, and pressure play. It's about real world-class stories backed up by strategies, bite-sized learning to help you level up your relationships, your mindset, and so on and so forth. But today, we are talking something slightly different, which I'm really fascinated with. And I got a really cool guest, Nick Caruso. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly.
You got it. Yes, Jason.
Yeah, welcome. So, a little bit of background from you. Hopefully I'll get this right. Nick Caruso is a seasoned tech entrepreneur, an AI strategist whose career spans over 20 years at the intersection of startups, national security, and enterprise solutions. From his early collaboration with the US intelligence community in the 2000s, working with IQT. What's IQT, Nick? What does that mean?
Yeah, let me just jump straight into that background.
Yeah.
And so first and foremost, I've been in this for your audience. I've been in the sales space for about 25, 30 years, leading very, very large sales teams. But I started my career right after 9/11. That was obviously a pivotal moment for the U.S. For the United States, and I worked for the U.S. intelligence community. And at that time, we were collecting enough information to fill our Library of Congress, which is just a huge organization, every 2 hours.
Wow.
So imagine the amount of volume and information that we were collecting every 2 hours. And it's humanly impossible to read all of that information, right? So I was at the forefront of using AI to automate business processes.
Wow.
And for the last 20 years, I've been implementing and selling AI solutions, but it was limited to only massive governments or very big corporations because it was so expensive. With the introduction of ChatGPT, as an example, the whole world changed. And now AI has been democratized, where it's incredible. At your fingertips now, you have access to AI that previously I would sell for $100 million.
Wow.
And so it is an exceptionally exciting time in the world, and scary, which we're going to get into, where we have this incredible capability now for anybody to use. And but the best place to start with AI in any company is in sales.
Yeah.
It's nothing better than growing your business and growing it so much faster than you did before.
The way I see it at the moment, I'm seeing it as, for me, a productivity tool. It's streamlined my process of creating content, but also creating workshops. And I was using it I created my own GPT recently, and that's really helped me streamline my process. As I just said before, when we did this introduction, I've just finished a workshop. And I got them to do some stuff on an online tool. And I just pulled all the data and I recreated it for a document for them, which I sent over. And bang, streamlined my process, made it so much more of a time management tool for me. But how do you see AI reshaping sales in 2025 and maybe slightly beyond because it's rapidly changing at an alarming rate.
Yep. It truly is. So first, when you look at AI, and I provide AI training and AI implementation services and so forth. When you look at AI, and for the leaders that are on this call right now, there are different buckets of AI, which is really important to understand.
Yep.
Um, the huge productivity bucket is using ChatGPT or an LLM like ChatGPT. So you might be familiar with Google's Gemini,
Yep.
Perplexity, Claude. Those are all in the same bucket. Those are exceptionally powerful tools that individuals can use.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to make the analogy that it's a tool, just like a musical instrument. If someone gave you a guitar and you don't know how to play the guitar, you're just going to string it, sound's going to come out. You're going to say, well, that's neat, right? And it's important to understand that there is proficiency levels in using these LLMs, and that's really important to understand. As I've talked to many CEOs, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I kind of used it. I don't, it was okay." And I was like, "No, you don't. Understanding it and is really important." The next level from there is, as an organization, how is your company embracing it? So you mentioned the word custom GPT.
Yep.
So for the audience to understand, that's a custom version of a chat GPT. And a great thing to do as an example is upload all your proposals that you write as a company into a custom GPT. Now it's become smart about your company, your proposals, your tone, your value proposition. So to your point, from a productivity perspective, now you and your team can write a proposal now what could have taken an hour or many hours or many days into literally minutes. So that's a great use case. So have you been doing that with your team, or can you go into more detail on your custom GPT?
Yes. Basically, what I've been doing, I'd say from the initial conversation that I have with the sales leader now, and if it's on Zoom or Teams or whatever platform, I use an AI note taker, or I use the note taker that's in there. Then afterwards, I pull out the transcript and then I push it back into ChatGPT to create a proposal based on the client's needs and their challenges, their issues, their problems. And again, as you've said, I've created my own GPT. I've got 3 GPTs running in the background now for all different things. So one of them would be for proposals. One of them would be for ideas for workshop creations based on certain methodologies and my own methodology.
Yep. So that's great. You are much more advanced than most people I talk to, which is fantastic. I would consider that now level 2. So level 1 is I'm just playing around ChatGPT. Level 2 is now I'm creating custom GPTs.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. And every sales person out there should absolutely be using an AI note taker. It is absolutely transformative. We do the same thing within my company. And what's phenomenal is we've trained our custom GPT to say, identify quotes that the customer stated in the conversation and inject those quotes into the value proposition of the proposal. Because I'm sure from a coaching perspective, we've been around this for a while. We all know that most of the time the person we're talking to has to become the champion internal to their organization to get the final proposal done, right? So we need to arm them with all that information, and I've trained my team now, knowing that we have AI listening on the background to say, "Oh, Jason, can you remind me again what the value proposition that you thought this could be? How transformative would it be? What's the ROI?" And so normal type of best practices that we want all of our sales reps to be doing anyway, the sales reps immediately see the ROI of them asking that question because they know it's going to be transcribed. They know it's going to be injected into the proposal. And so it's absolutely transformative.
I tell you what I do use now is I use an AI note taker to analyze how I'm performing in a conversation. And I use it now. I know there's lots of specific tools out there that use an AI function, but I use it on a Pareto principle, which is an 80-20 rule. So if I'm talking 20% of the time, it will tell me. If they're talking 80% of the time, then it's working well for me. And then I can just analyze. I love the data behind it, but I want to make sure that I'm doing my job correctly by asking enough questions. Then I can tell it to us, I'm asking enough positive questions relatable questions, and so on and so forth. So I'm using it for a self-analysis so I can improve.
Yep. No, that's genius. And what you should be doing, Jason, maybe you are already, is you should be selling that to the clients as because I'm sure you're doing this as well. I've been as a sales leader, we are also sales coaches, right?
Yep.
So, and I tell my team to do that. And there have been tools in the past like Gong.io, you might be familiar with. So very expensive tools to use. They're great tools, but they're still very rigid. Now with AI, you can do this yourself. You don't need a Gong to do it. But we all know that we should be doing this, like doing checkpoints with our team, maybe auditing our team, seeing if they're following those best practices. But now with AI and a custom GPT, you can do that. But then now level 1 is just ChatGPT out of the box. Level 2 is a custom GPT.
Yep.
Level 3 for me is getting into what the industry is calling AI agents.
I've heard of this. Yes. And I'm very curious about how to use this. And I'm sure the audience would be, but explain a little bit more, because AI agents and AI bots as well, that's what I've been hearing about, but I haven't really delved too much into it.
Yep. So an AI agent, and there's different definitions of this, but just consider it just an autonomous process leveraging AI. So your example of your recording.
Yep.
So there are plenty of recording systems out there. There's Firefly, there's Fathom, all those, right?
Yep.
They will have like their own built-in AI. But honestly, the last thing I want to do is log into another application to kind of like do something. I just want to have the recording and I want magic to happen.
Yep.
So if the magic to happen is I want it to now automatically create the proposal for me. I want it to automatically analyze my team's performance. I want automatically once a week now to get a scorecard that shows me my team, the meetings, and how they're performing. And that's where an AI agent is. It's doing it automatically. So right now, your workflow probably is you log into the application after the call, you download it, you log into ChatGPT, you upload it.
Yep.
If that was just an automated process, and automated process can also mean a human in the loop, meaning the AI emails you and says, based upon the call, looks like you need a proposal. Here's a proposal I just wrote up. If you like it, just reply go, and off it goes.
Do you know what? I've got thousands of questions in my head. How do I do this? And when can I do this? And what do I need to do in order for that to happen? Because that's my curious head bouncing into places.
Yep. So if you're technical and want to build it yourself, you can. And if you want, I can actually show you something pretty quickly. If I can share a screen. There's a phenomenal. There's several workflow tools out there. You may have heard of Zapier or Make.com.
Yep.
There's a phenomenal tool out there from a company actually out of Germany called N8N, the letter N, the number 8N. And they just raised, I think, a $50 million round. It is transforming the industry, and it makes it very easy to say, I want to do this. I want to call ChatGPT. I want to do that. And it's fully automated. It's incredible.
Wow. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah. And I'm sure the listener would want something like that because my process at the moment is to do that, record it. Then I would go in, even utilizing Grammarly. Grammarly is the number one of my tools as well that I would always use because I just want to clean up everything. And then I make that bespoke to my language and how I would speak. And ironically enough, I still use Microsoft Word dictate function. And then I push that up to the AI to make it, because that's how I want to be. That's how I want to be sound like and a bit more humanized by how I speak.
Right.
If that makes sense. So I still have a little bit of a process in there that I'd like to adapt, but utilizing that. And what I'm curious about, I might be jumping around a bit because I'm still fascinated with that, but usability of a outreach and campaigns. And that's where my head is right now. And I'm sure a lot of people aren't doing the same thing about streamlining an outreach campaign. But my challenge is, and I've used tools like this to reflect back onto LinkedIn, and I've used tools, and basically, it wasn't very good experience, and it sounded too AI-ish, and it didn't sound like me getting back to a client on a message. That was my challenge. So I pulled back and stopped using a AI tool, and I just deleted it. It was just frustrating because I wanted it to sound more human-like and more personalized to the conversation.
Yep. So are you familiar with the Gartner hype curve?
I say no, maybe.
Okay. So the Gartner hype curve is Gartner. You might be familiar with
Yep.
their research analyst company and so forth, and they work with all the Fortune 100s and thousands and things like that. But anyway, they have a Gartner hype curve, which I think is brilliant, and it talks about technology adoption.
Yep.
And essentially, it's just like there's a lot of hype at the start, and then you peak, and then there's what's called the trough of disillusionment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of hype, and so AI is like in this hype, and then you're at the trough of disillusionment, which is where you're at, where you just were at, saying, I just wasn't there, right? And then there's I forget what it's called, but then there's the adoption, the acceptance, and then it kind of goes up. So what they do is they plot, when they talk about technologies, where they fit in the hype curve. So if you're a CEO and you're looking at adopting a technology and whatever, you just need to be realistic in understanding where is this in the hype curve. So AI outreach is in that almost that trough of disillusionment right now.
Yeah.
Where you hear about AI and you hear about the hype and so forth, and you're like, okay, well, I tried it doesn't really work from an outreach perspective. So I would agree with you on that. There's a lot of really bad implementations of AI outreach. Also, though, if you've been looking at that musical instrument analogy, it's the person that's controlling that musical instrument. It's the prompt behind it. It's the training or the custom GPT that's been trained on your tone, your style. And then additionally, as you're well aware, technology is moving so fast. The AI today is phenomenally better than it was a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's just talk about the whole space of building top of funnel, because that is a great place for AI right now.
Okay.
And so when we talk about that, and that's where I focus on as a company a lot, is AI helping bring in more clients into a company. So when we look about that, the typical role of that is a BDR or an SDR. So for your audience, these are individuals. Usually they're in their 20s that are being tasked to go out, find contacts, reach out to them, bring them into the pipeline.
Yep.
So if we break down what their roles are, the first step of their process is they do research. Right. And so you might be familiar with products like ZoomInfo or Apollo, right? All of that now can be completely automated, that part of that research process, right? Like, here's my ICP, my ideal customer profile, go out and find contacts that fit that. Where I see a lot of companies fail, and even a lot of human SDRs and BDRs fail, is they don't actually do good research.
I agree. I think LinkedIn called that deep learning.
Yep. And deep learning is actually a form of AI as well. But so a lot of times you need to really do a lot of, so let's say, actually one of my customers right now is looking for construction companies that are building apartments in the state of North Carolina. Okay. So that's pretty hard. There's not a lot of databases out there that have that. You can go to a ZoomInfo and you can say, find me construction companies in North Carolina, right? But you can't find which ones. A human would have to go to each one of those construction companies, go to their website, look at what their active portfolio is, and determine if they're currently building an apartment, right? So as a human, you should be doing that. That 20-year-old SDR or BDR should be doing that. The reality is, a lot of times they don't. They just get a list of construction companies and dial phone numbers. But that's a beautiful use case of AI, where AI can now find that list and go to every website, analyze the website of that construction company, analyze their portfolio, and determine if that construction company is indeed has an apartment under construction.
Oh, wow.
And that's absolutely phenomenal. And I can give you I can spend hours just giving you different use cases. I'll give you one other quick one as an example. One of our clients wants to go after nonprofits in the United States. Well, that's simple. I can go to ZoomInfo. I can search for nonprofits. But wait, no. It's not just a nonprofit. It has to be a nonprofit that has programs to help people coming out of jail to ensure they don't go back into jail. So
Right.
to help in that transition. So that requires a human now to go to every single nonprofit, right? Look at their website, look at their programs, etc. Beautiful use case for AI to go through every nonprofit in North America and analyze them and determine what level of programs they have. Now you've got a highly targeted list. That's an awesome use case for AI.
Love it. And I want to do that straight away. And that's on my radar. And that's exactly what I've been thinking about. But thinking about how to do it and to get the right data, but obviously needs the expertise to put in the right language to find that right data as well. So
correct. And so I know where we got the Atlantic Ocean separation as but from an ICP perspective, you use the terms ICP over in Europe as well.
No, what is it? Explain that acronym as well, so the audience understands what it means.
Yeah. So as part of a true sales professional operation in your company, every company should have a marketing plan or a sales plan.
Yep.
Or a sales playbook. As part of that sales playbook, you should have identified who is my ideal customer profile, my ICPs.
Okay, got it.
And then out of my ICPs, what's my value proposition to each ICP? What's the pain point I'm solving? Who are the personas, the buying persona, the influencer, et cetera? This should be a 100-page document that is the blueprint of your ideal profile. And by the way, another great use case of AI is use AI to help you write your ICP. You can have it write a phenomenal 100-page playbook, and where the AI is interviewing you through that process to help you build that playbook. Yes, so once you have that playbook, it's a great use case to hand that over to an AI to now go out and find new customers for you. I'll give you one more example since you mentioned Ireland.
Yeah, all right. I'm fascinated by this, so that's why I've got a big smile on my face, because it's making me think. And the good thing about this, it's going to help so many other people think about the direction that they need to be going in.
Correct. Yeah. And all the clients, these are all taking excellent business processes to create a formalized sales process within your organization, which you should be doing anyway.
Yep.
But once you've documented that blueprint, you hand that over to the AI. I'll give you one more example since you're out of Ireland. One of my clients, their ideal customer profile are biotech companies that are in pre-clinical or stage 1 or stage 2 clinical trials. Again, you could go to a ZoomInfo, do a search for biotech, whatever, but only a human can go into each one of those results and validate where that company is, what stage of clinical trials they're doing. Now with AI, you can just automate that entire process. Now figure out exactly who to target and then go from there. So that's what I would consider stage 1 AI for building top of funnel. Now the really exciting part is now stage 2. So let me go into stage 2.
Yeah, please do.
So you mentioned in your intro, it's a lot about the human touch, the relationships.
And that was a question that I had, the human-centric side of how we approach connecting and working with clients. And I think, as you said, it's I'm getting into that doom and gloom area, but elaborate a little bit more on this, because I think this side is really important.
Yep. So now I know who are all the companies that really fit my profile.
Yeah.
Right? So the next question there is the very first question you should be doing as an organization, regardless of AI, is who do I know in that company already or in my network that can introduce me to that company?
Yep.
We all know we should be doing that, we all know that we fail at that. So if it's a really important client, you may send an email out to your entire company saying, does anybody know anybody at this company? Right? You know, you can be going into your CRM, but we all know our salespeople are terrible at updating their CRM.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone is. Yep. Yep.
Right? So it's important to step back and say, well, wait a minute. Why can't technology solve this question? Why can't I have AI know who are we already emailing with or having meetings with? Who am I connected to at that company via LinkedIn, or everybody else in my company is connected to, right? Because on LinkedIn, I can see how I'm connected, but I may not know that my colleague is connected to them, right? Who on my board of directors is connected to maybe somebody on their board of directors? So when you start thinking about it as all this web of connectivity to get to that client, and wouldn't it be amazing, out of all of my ideal clients, I could have AI triangulate how to get to that person or that company. And that's another phenomenal use case of AI.
Yeah, you're giving me loads of things to think about here, and my brain is going 10 to a dozen about streamlining this approach and how to utilize that. Because the challenging thing is with shiny objects, and you know what that means, is there is so many tools out there, it just gets overwhelming. And before you know it, you get fatigue and you have to go, well, what's the best use of my time with the best approach and the best tools out there that can enable me to do what I need to do and not really think about it too much. So the overwhelm of too many tools, and I've had that fatigue for many years, is shiny objects. How can we move that in and squeeze that in a little bit, just so that's a singular tool, product, or way of doing things that enable us to maybe connect more with our clients and do what we need to be doing?
Yep. So usually when I'm on these podcasts, I don't try and do too much of a sales pitch.
Yep.
But what your pain point that you're saying is exactly what we do.
Yep.
So we provide an AI service where we eliminate that complexity for you. Ultimately, you want to get results. You want to get building top of funnel. And we come in and we, as a company, we help implement this all for you. So yes, there's lots of tools out there that could do it. But to your point, it's individual tools to get there. That is the beauty of ChatGPT, though. Over the next few years, they are magically incorporating that capability into their platform. You may, I don't know if you've heard of this. Are you familiar? I mean, obviously, just for the sake of your audience, SaaS, software as a service, right?
Yep.
We're all paying lots of different subscription licenses for SaaS products. Yeah. Whether it's your CRM system, your Monday.com or Asana or whatever, right? The CEO of Microsoft came out about 9 months ago stating he believes SaaS is dead.
Oh, okay.
And that's where the industry is going. So all, to your point, all these different individual licenses that you're buying for, they're all going to go away in the next few years.
Good.
So the classic example is Photoshop.
Yep.
Right? You really don't need a Photoshop license anymore, because now you can go to ChatGPT and you can say, draw me a picture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So that $50 to $100 a month license to Photoshop disappeared. Right. It's argumentative, but your CRM license that you're paying for right now may go away.
Good. Another good thing.
So AI will actually be addressing that pain point. We'll be consolidating things down, where you will just be interfacing through an AI agent or an AI service, and essentially that's what we do. So AI on top of funnel. There's AI to find the right contacts. There is AI to find the relationships and the connection paths to those contacts. The next great step of AI is where you have been disillusioned, and I understand why, is AI outreach.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. And so when there's AI outreach, there's two steps to that. One is just automating your email and your LinkedIn outreach.
Yeah. And I don't like it.
right? And a lot of that, a couple things. One, that technology has been around for several years now.
It has, yeah, yeah.
Not to do just to automate the outreach, the same standard template email or template message and so forth. Companies should absolutely be doing that regardless. I would highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing automated LinkedIn outreach as the CEO of the company.
Yeah, it's got to come from a person as opposed to a company.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And but the CEO, so many CEOs, they're so busy. I'm incredibly busy. I don't have time to do outreach. But it's so much more impactful for a CEO to reach out to a CEO of your target company, not that 20-year-old SDR BDR.
True.
And so every listener on here should absolutely be saying, I'm sure every listener on here is a seasoned professional. You absolutely need automation to be reaching out to your ideal customer profiles, building that connection path. If anything, just to build the network.
Oh, absolutely.
But then the next one is what's that call to action? And that's where it fell apart for you. Was you said it wasn't personal.
It just sounded like a robot, and I prefer this is how I would work, the human touch.
Yep. And I don't want to take that away. So I think to your point, that's very important. And it's and the start of it's all about that the personalization and so forth. And I'm not going to be able to convince you on this call, but the AI has reached that level that you can get that. So what if you define what does personalized touch mean? So personalized touch means, go ahead. Why don't you define it?
Yeah, no, my personal touch is building rapport, building trust, credibility with them, but based on how I speak and my language. And I know AI can do that, but sometimes it feels like it's missing out a little bit, even utilizing some of the language that I use. I use the voice notes, I use video, and I use other elements because I feel like they can actually see me, but I'm making it relevant to them. But I don't want any video sounding like I'm American. And I know you can create it, but I just don't want that. I don't know. I can still see it. It's not human, but I know it's getting there. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So, and what I'm going to say is this is very controversial for your audience, right?
Mm.
And I understand it, but what's great about LinkedIn is they do limit the number of interactions that you can do on LinkedIn per day,
Cool.
whether you're human or a bot.
Yep.
So let's say it's limited to 15 interactions per day.
Yep.
Okay. So if you can only interact with 15 per day, you really want phenomenal AI to make sure it's the best 15 people for that day, and you are truly providing value to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the days of spamming where you could spam 5,000 people in a day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right? You have to be super targeted. So what does that mean? It means really finding the right person who is already maybe active on LinkedIn, maybe posting, maybe it's a press release that the company made, maybe it's the CEO said something on a podcast. So that human touch is making sure that what you are reaching out to that person because you truly believe that you can provide value to that person.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not spraying something and hoping it might resonate. You truly believe that. And I think that's really important from the human touch perspective. And then it's really doing research about that person to make sure that what you are about to communicate to them will resonate to them as strongly as possible.
Absolutely.
Another great use case for AI. So if done right, and if we had more time, I would share you some actual results. You get phenomenal results out of these programs, where you're able to leverage AI to get to the right person with the right message at the right time to automate building your top of funnel.
Brilliant. Maybe that's a conversation for another time. Question that I always like to ask, Nick, and I think it's quite important. If you were interviewing you, what sort of question would you ask you right now?
Well, the question I would ask me right now is, what's the biggest impact I can have to my business?
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely leveraging AI to be transformative to that business. And then my second question, just for curiosity, is, where are we going to be 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah. Yeah. And where do you think that might be?
Scary and transformative. So as much of the hype there is around AI, it is nowhere near as much as you think it is. It's like it is going to be even more impactful than you believe it is.
I read something the other day, and I'm not sure, I can't remember where I read it from, but they're saying the IQ of AI is around about 150 odd at the moment, but they suggesting it's going to go up to 3,000-4,000 or whatever. It's just going to be ridiculous, the IQ level in the next couple of years. There wasn't a timeline on it, but they said it's going to get extremely scary on where it can possibly go.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. And then so the question is to your listeners, are you going to wait and sit back and see what happens, or are you going to be proactive to try and get ahead of it? And because it's going to be so transformative in this space, and we are just scratching the surface of it right now.
And that's exactly how they ended on the article. And I think that's just so very true. That's why I had to embrace it myself. And I've been using it for years anyway, but now it's just exploded. And it's got too many things to do, but it is helping me streamline my process. So, Nick, how can people find out more about you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So search for Nick Caruso, Caruso, on LinkedIn, and you'll pretty easily find me. And you can also search for me on knowledgenet.ai. The knowledge net, that means the network of knowledge, both internal and external, to fuse that information together to have an impact to your business.
Phenomenal. Like, I really appreciate it. It's been a really fascinating conversation. I could actually talk to you for hours, and I know I could. There's so much more we could talk about. So I think we pause it for today, but let's re-encounter the conversation, because next time we speak, there'll be something else, which is equally as exciting. And I get very excited on these types of podcasts because it's education, and it's also feeding forward to the people that are actually listening and to understand where it's going. So thank you once again.
Oh, no problem. And Jason, you said we should treat this like a bar conversation. So the next time we have this conversation, let's have a pint of beer in our hand and enjoy it that way.
Absolutely, we shall do. Well, thank you once again. You've been listening to the Global Sales Leader podcast. My name is Jason Cooper. Every week, every time I speak to someone phenomenal, I make sure that the conversation is for you listening to what we have to say. And hopefully you will take something out of these conversations like today, impact your world, and make a difference in what you do. So we really appreciate that. I'm Jason Cooper from jasoncooper.io.